The containment field hummed with a sound that made human teeth ache. Ambassador David Stone stood perfectly still, his gray suit somehow immaculate despite 6 days of confinement. To his left, Captain Lisa Thorne flexed her hands inside her combat gloves, testing the field's resistance. To his right, Dr. Ben Rivers adjusted his glasses out of habit. Though there was nothing to adjust in zero-gravity above them, around them and below them in the spherical chamber, 73 alien species watched with eyes that ranged from compound to crystalline to something that looked like swirling gas. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council hung in the void between stars, a massive structure of living crystal that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Each pulse felt like a heartbeat. Like the chamber itself was alive and judging them, the arbiter descended from the upper tier. Its name was unpronounceable in human language, but its form was unforgettable. 6 arms ending in blade-like fingers. A body made of geometric crystal formations that refracted light into weapons-grade beams. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere, translated directly into their minds. You stand accused of 17 counts of unprovoked military aggression. 40,000 lives lost at the Nexus Station. 3 Council worlds left defenseless. 6 solar days of terror across civilized space. The holographic evidence materialized around them. Burning ships. Shattered stations. Debris fields that once held lives and dreams. The images rotated slowly, accusingly, while the assembled species murmured in their various languages. Some sounded like wind through caves. Others like metal scraping metal. A few like nothing Earth had ever produced. Captain Thorne's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Dr. Rivers looked down at his feet, though his expression showed no guilt. Only Ambassador Stone met the Arbiter's multifaceted gaze directly. "Does humanity deny these charges?" the Arbiter asked. Stone's voice was quiet, but carried through the chamber with perfect clarity. "No, we destroyed those ships. We eliminated those installations. The evidence is accurate." A wave of shocked sounds rippled through the assembly. Confession was rare in council proceedings. Most species spent cycles denying, explaining, or justifying their actions. Humans had been in the chamber less than 10 minutes and had already admitted to acts that would normally result in planetary quarantine or worse. "Then, you understand the severity of your crimes," the Arbiter continued. "The Galactic Council maintains peace across 14,000 inhabited worlds. Your species has existed in space for barely 50 of your years, yet you have caused more disruption than rebellions that lasted decades." Stone nodded slowly. "We understand what you believe we've done. But I have a question before we proceed to sentencing." The Arbiter's crystalline form shifted, angles rearranging into something that might have been surprise. "You wish to question this council? I wish to know if anyone here bothered to ask why we did it." The chamber fell silent. Even the ambient sounds of translation devices and breathing apparatus seemed to fade. Stone reached into his jacket pocket slowly, careful not to trigger the containment field's defensive protocols. He withdrew a small data chip. "May I present evidence to the council?" The Arbiter considered this for a long moment. Finally, one of its blade fingers extended, and the data chip floated from Stone's hand into the central projection system. The images that appeared made several species recoil. Star charts showing Earth's solar system, timestamps covering 3 cycles, and ship signatures, dozens of them, all council vessels, all performing what looked like military reconnaissance of human space. "For 3 cycles," Stone said, his voice still calm. "Council ships have been mapping our defenses, analyzing our communications and cataloging our resources. You never announced yourselves, never requested permission, never explained your presence." A tall being made of flowing water in a containment suit rose from one of the lower tiers. Its voice bubbled through translators. "Standard integration protocols for newly space-capable species. Every civilization undergoes this assessment." "And how do those civilizations typically respond?" Stone asked. The water being hesitated. "Most are honored by the Council's attention. They welcome our guidance. Most species receive contact from your diplomatic vessels first, Stone countered. They're told about the Council. They're offered membership. They understand what the reconnaissance means. He paused, letting the next words settle with full weight. We received no such courtesy. We detected military vessels surveying our home without explanation or introduction. From our perspective, an unknown force was preparing to invade. The Arbiter's form shifted again, crystals rotating. The Council does not invade. We integrate. The difference wasn't clear to us. Captain Thorne spoke for the first time, her voice hard. On Earth, when someone scouts your defenses without talking to you first, it means they're planning to attack. We don't wait around to see if we're right. Dr. Rivers added quietly, we ran probability models. Every scenario suggested the reconnaissance pattern was pre-invasion staging. We had no context to think otherwise. The Arbiter's blade fingers tapped together, creating a sound like breaking glass. So you attacked first? Preemptive warfare based on assumption. We eliminated potential threats based on observed behavior, Stone corrected. Those 17 warships you mentioned? We didn't ambush them in some glorious battle. We tracked them, studied them, and then we disabled them one by one, taking their crews alive when possible. Because we wanted to know who you were and what you wanted. More holograms appeared? Council crew members alive and well in human detention facilities. Comfortable quarters? Medical care? Even recreational areas. The captured crews looked healthy, if confused. The mining colony that was supposedly obliterated? Stone continued. It was a forward military base disguised as a civilian installation. We have the classified files we recovered from the ships we disabled. The Nexus station was a staging ground for a fleet buildup in our sector. We didn't destroy these facilities. We emptied them of personnel and removed the military assets. A reptilian species on the far side of the chamber hissed through its translator. Lies. The Council would never hide military operations behind civilian shields. Stone's expression didn't change. The files came from your own ships, your own security protocols, your own command codes. Either the Council authorized these deceptions, or someone within your organization is running unauthorized operations in our space. The chamber erupted. Species shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Accusations flew. Some defended the Council's honor. Others demanded investigations. The Arbiter raised all 6 arms, and silence crashed down like a physical force. These are serious allegations, it said. But even if true, they do not justify your actions. You could have attempted contact. You could have sought clarification. Captain Thorne laughed, a sharp sound without humor. Like the 17 ship crews that never reported our messages? We tried hailing them. Every single one. They went silent the moment they detected our approach. That's not the behavior of peaceful explorers. That's the behavior of scouts who got caught. The Arbiter turned to face the assembled Council. Is there truth to these claims? Before anyone could answer, every display in the chamber flickered. Emergency alerts pulsed across alien communication systems. A new transmission forced its way through the Council's secured networks. Stone watched the chaos spread and allowed himself the smallest smile. You should answer that. It's important. The Arbiter accessed the transmission, and its crystalline form went perfectly still. Around the chamber, representatives checked their own communications, and their various expressions of shock and fear painted a clear picture. 16 Council warships have ceased all communications in the last hour, the Arbiter said slowly. All in sectors near human-occupied space. Stone straightened his jacket. Then I suppose we should talk about what happens next. You can treat this as an act of war and send more ships we'll have to disable. Or you can accept that humanity responded rationally to what appeared to be a threat. Your choice, but choose quickly. Because every minute you spend judging us is another minute my people spend protecting our home. The containment field hummed. The chamber pulsed. And Ambassador David Stone stood calmly in the center of it all, waiting for the Galactic Council to decide if they were ready to learn what humanity meant by Self-defense. The emergency session of the Galactic Council continued for 18 hours without break. Ambassador David Stone, Captain Lisa Thorne, and Dr. Ben Rivers remained in their containment field, though it had been adjusted to allow them to sit. They took turns resting while maintaining constant vigilance. Around them, the 73 species argued, debated, and occasionally threatened each other. The revelation that 16 more Council warships had gone silent changed everything. What started as a trial transformed into a crisis negotiation. The Arbiter called for calm repeatedly, but panic was spreading through the chamber like fire through dry grass. A species that resembled a floating jellyfish spoke through waves of bioluminescent pulses. How is this possible? Our warships are equipped with the finest military technology in the galaxy. Humans barely have functional void drives. Stone stood, drawing attention back to the containment field. You're asking the wrong question. It's not about our technology. It's about our methods. The Arbiter's crystalline form rotated to face him fully. Explained. 3 weeks ago, our deep space monitoring network detected your first reconnaissance vessels. We're new to space travel, but we're very experienced at warfare. We've been fighting each other since before we discovered fire. So when we saw unknown military vessels studding our home, we didn't panic. We planned. Captain Thorne rose beside him. We recalled every human ship back to the solar system. Total communications blackout. You thought we were hiding in fear? We were actually studying you. Every probe you sent gave us more information. Your engine signatures, your hull compositions, your communication frequencies. You were scanning us, but we were learning from you. Dr. Rivers adjusted his glasses and continued the explanation. The Council operates on principles of honorable warfare. Your ships broadcast identification codes. They follow predictable patrol routes. They respond to distress signals. These are all protocols designed for warfare between civilized species who respect certain rules. We don't fight like that, Stone said quietly. On Earth we have a saying, all is fair in love and war. When survival is at stake, there are no rules. There is only winning or losing. The water being from earlier surged forward in its containment suit. You speak of barbarism as if it were strategy. We speak of effectiveness, Thorne replied. Your 17 ships didn't disappear because we have better weapons. They disappeared because we don't fight fair. We tracked them for days without being detected. We studied their crews, their schedules, their vulnerabilities, and then we struck when they were most exposed. The holographic display shifted, showing tactical data. Stone had authorized the release of limited information about human operations. The Council representatives watched in growing horror as the recordings played. A human vessel, painted the color of void itself, drifted alongside a Council warship. No engine signatures, no energy readings, just silent movement through the darkness. The human ship matched the Council vessel's trajectory perfectly, staying in its sensor-blind spot. For 6 hours it remained undetected. Then, with surgical precision, the human vessel deployed what looked like maintenance drones. They attached to the Council ship's hull and began working, cutting through armor, accessing internal systems. In less than 20 minutes, they had disabled the main power core, jammed all communications, and flooded the ship with a sleeping gas that left the crew unconscious but alive. When the Council crew woke, they were in human custody and their ship was being carefully disassembled for study. You treat warfare like hunting? A 6-legged insectoid species clicked through its translator. Exactly, Stone confirmed. Every species in this chamber evolved on worlds where they were dominant. You never had natural predators once you developed intelligence. Earth is different. We had to fight every other species on our planet for dominance. We learned to hunt prey larger and stronger than ourselves by being smarter, more patient, and more ruthless. The Arbiter's blade fingers tapped together, creating that distinctive breaking glass sound. You are describing tactics that violate every convention of civilized warfare. We never agreed to your conventions, Thorne pointed out. You never told us they existed? From our perspective, we're defending our home against unknown hostiles using every advantage we have. A new voice entered the discussion. An elderly being made of what looked like living stone rose from the highest tier of the chamber. Its species, the Granite Collective, were known as the Council's eldest members. They rarely spoke, but when they did, others listened. "The humans speak truth," the stone being rumbled. "We began the integration protocols without proper introduction. We assumed they would respond as other species do. We were wrong." The Arbiter turned to face the Elder. "You suggest we are at fault? I suggest we made assumptions based on our experience with thousands of species. But humans are not like those species. Their planet is a death world. Water covers most of it. The atmosphere is corrosive to many of us. The gravity is punishing. The native life forms are aggressive. And yet humans not only survived, but thrived. They became apex predators in an environment designed to kill them." Dr. Rivers nodded. "Earth has 5 major extinction events in its history. Life on our planet has been nearly wiped out 5 separate times. The species that survived weren't the strongest or the smartest initially. They were the most adaptable. Humans inherited that trait. We adapt faster than you can imagine." The chamber fell into uncomfortable silence. The implications were sinking in. Humanity had been in space for less than a century, and they had already reverse-engineered enough Council technology to become a credible threat. What would they be capable of in another century? Another millennium? "What do you want?" the Arbiter asked finally. Stone's answer was immediate and clear. "Recognition. Not as your subjects or your students, but as equals. We want autonomy over our space. We want the right to defend ourselves as we see fit. And we want a seat at this council so that no one else makes the mistake of approaching us without proper communication." "Impossible," several species shouted at once. "Then we have nothing more to discuss," Stone said calmly. "Release us and we'll return to our space. But understand that if any council vessel enters our territory without explicit permission and proper diplomatic protocols, we will treat it as hostile. And we've proven we're very good at dealing with hostile vessels." The Arbiter's form flickered through several configurations, a sign of deep thought or distress. "You threaten the council in its own chamber." "We're stating facts," Thorne corrected. "Threats imply uncertainty. We're giving you certainty. Stay away from human space or we'll defend it. It's simple." Before anyone could respond, another emergency alert flooded the chamber. This time the news was worse. An entire Council patrol fleet, 23 ships, had ceased communications simultaneously. Near the outer edge of human-occupied zones, the reptilian species that had accused Stone of lying earlier now looked at him with something approaching fear. "What have you done?" "What we said we would do," Stone replied. "Defend our home. Those ships entered our space after this trial began. They ignored our warnings, so we removed them from play." 23 ships, the water being gasped. "In one coordinated strike. How many vessels does humanity have?" Stone smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Enough. The real question is whether you want to find out exactly how many by forcing us to disable more of your fleet, or if you'd prefer to negotiate like rational beings." The Arbiter raised all 6 arms. "This council will recess for deliberation. The humans will remain in custody until we reach a decision." As the various species began filing out of the chamber, many cast fearful or angry glances at the 3 humans standing calmly in their containment field. Stone sat back down, apparently relaxed. "Think they'll accept?" Thorne asked quietly. "They have to," Rivers replied. "The alternative is fighting a war they don't understand against an enemy that doesn't follow their rules. Even if they win eventually, the cost will be enormous." Stone said nothing, but his eyes tracked the Arbiter as it conferred with the eldest species. This was the critical moment. Humanity had shown its teeth. Now the Council had to decide if they wanted to pull those teeth, or learn to live with a predator in their midst. The recess lasted 6 hours. During that time, Ambassador David Stone, Captain Lisa Thorne, and Dr. Ben Rivers waited in their containment field while the council chamber emptied. Guards remained, various species in armor that looked more ceremonial than functional. They kept their distance, watching the humans with obvious unease. Stone noticed how they never turned their backs on the containment field, how they communicated in whispers, how they checked their weapons repeatedly even though the field made those weapons unnecessary. Fear was a useful tool, but it could also be dangerous. Frightened beings made unpredictable decisions. "They're taking too long," Thorne muttered. "That's either very good or very bad for us." Rivers was running calculations on a small datapad they had been allowed to keep. The longer they deliberate, the more divided they are. Some want to negotiate. Others want to retaliate. The question is which faction has more influence. Stone remained quiet, his eyes closed as if resting. But his mind was racing through scenarios. Humanity had played its hand aggressively, showing strength to avoid appearing weak. But strength could be interpreted as threat, and threatened beings often lashed out rather than negotiate. The next few hours would determine whether humans had a place in the galaxy or would be forced into isolation. The chamber doors opened with a sound like thunder. The species filed back in, but their arrangement had changed. The ones who had argued most vocally for war were seated lower. The elder species, including the Granite Collective, occupied the highest tiers. That was a good sign. Age usually meant wisdom, or at least caution. The Arbiter descended to its position at the chamber's center. Its crystalline form had changed configuration, now appearing more like a throne than a weapon. Another good sign. Weapons were for fighting. Thrones were for ruling, which meant establishing order rather than chaos. "The Council has reached a preliminary decision," the Arbiter announced. Its mind voice carried weight, each word deliberate. "But before we announce it, you require answers to questions that will determine humanity's fate." Stone opened his eyes and stood. "Ask, the 23 ships that went silent during our recess. Where are they?" "Disabled and empty. The crews are in stasis pods aboard our vessels, all alive and unharmed." A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. The reptilian species that had been so hostile before leaned forward. "You captured 23 crews in a coordinated operation? How many human ships did that require?" Stone considered his answer carefully. Truth could be useful or dangerous depending on how it was presented. "We used 42 vessels for that operation. Small crews, highly trained, working in perfect coordination. 42 ships defeated 23 warships without a single distress signal being sent." The reptilian's translator made its disbelief clear. Thorne stepped forward. "Your warships are built for fleet engagements. Ship-to-ship combat. Trading shots across vast distances. Our ships are built for infiltration and ambush. We don't engage your ships in the way you expect to be engaged. We get close, we get inside, and we disable you before you know we're there." The water being in its containment suit spoke next. "You admit to boarding Council vessels without permission. That is piracy." "It's war," Stone corrected. "Or at least it's what we thought was war when unknown military forces entered our space. If the Council had sent diplomats first, none of this would have happened. Instead, you sent scouts and surveillance ships. We responded appropriately." The Arbiter's blade fingers tapped together. "Appropriately. You used that word as if your actions were measured. You disabled 40 Council vessels in 3 weeks. Many species would consider that excessive." Dr. Rivers spoke up, his voice calm and academic. "From a strategic perspective, it was actually quite restrained. We identified 63 Council vessels operating in or near human space during that period. We engaged only those that refused communication or entered our territory without permission. The others were monitored but not attacked." That revelation caused another wave of discussion. The Council had not realized humans were tracking their movements so comprehensively. The Granite Collective's representative spoke, its voice like grinding stone. "The humans demonstrate capability we did not anticipate. This raises a fundamental question. What are your ultimate intentions? Do you seek to conquer? To isolate? To integrate? Stone had prepared for this question. Everything depended on his answer. We seek recognition and autonomy. We don't want to conquer your worlds. We don't want to isolate ourselves from galactic civilization. But we will not be subjects or junior members to be guided and controlled. Earth has been independent since humans first organized into societies. We won't give that up now. Pride, the reptilian hissed. You risk war for pride? Survival, Thorn corrected sharply. Every species in this chamber takes its sovereignty for granted. You make your own decisions. You defend your own interests. You negotiate as equals. We're asking for the same consideration. If that's pride, then every being here is guilty of it. The Arbiter rotated to face the highest tier where the eldest species sat. Some silent communication passed between them, too subtle for human eyes to catch. Then the Arbiter turned back to Stone. The Council is prepared to offer provisional recognition. Earth will be acknowledged as a sovereign territory. Your space will be respected. In return, humanity must agree to abide by Council laws regarding warfare, particularly the protection of civilian populations and the treatment of prisoners. Stone felt relief wash through him but kept his expression neutral. We can agree to those terms. The crews we captured have been treated well. We have no interest in harming non-combatants. There is more, the Arbiter continued. The Council requires proof that humanity can operate within civilized constraints. Many members fear that your predatory nature, as you call it, makes you unsuitable for galactic society. What kind of proof? Rivers asked. Before the Arbiter could answer, every communication system in the chamber erupted with emergency signals. The eldest species stood simultaneously, their various forms rigid with alarm. Stone's datapad lit up with an automated message from Earth's defense network. The Arbiter accessed the incoming transmission and its form went completely still. The Krill swarm has launched a major offensive in the fringe sectors. 3 colony worlds have gone dark. Council defensive fleets are in full retreat. Stone knew of the Krill from the intelligence they had gathered from captured ships, a hive mind species that reproduced rapidly and consumed resources at an unsustainable rate. The Council had been fighting them for centuries with limited success, the water being turned to stone with desperate urgency in its bioluminescent pulses. Your species claims to excel at warfare. The Krill do not follow rules. They do not negotiate. They only consume and expand. If humanity can help stop them, it would prove your value to this Council. Stone looked at Thorn and Rivers. Both nodded slightly. This was the opportunity they needed. Not just to prove humanity's worth, but to demonstrate they could be more than destroyers. We'll need full intelligence on the Krill, Stone said. Battle data, biological information, everything you have. And we'll need the Council to stay out of our way while we work. The Arbiter's form shifted into something that might have been hope or desperation. You believe you can stop them? We believe we can try, Thorn replied. But understand something. We fight to win. Our methods might disturb you. We won't be following your conventional warfare protocols. If that's a problem, say so now. The reptilian species that had been so hostile spoke, and for the first time its tone carried respect rather than anger. The Krill have killed billions over the centuries. If you can stop them, we will not question your methods. The Arbiter raised all 6 arms in what might have been a gesture of agreement or surrender. The containment field is lifted. You are free to return to your vessels and coordinate with your forces. The Council will provide all information we have on the Krill swarm, prove that humanity deserves a place among the civilized species, and your provisional recognition will become permanent. The field around the 3 humans flickered and vanished. Stone stepped forward, extending his hand to the Arbiter in the human gesture of agreement. The crystalline being stared at the offered hand for a long moment before extending one of its blade fingers to touch Stone's palm carefully. Don't mistake our nature for cruelty, Stone said quietly. We hunt because we must. We fight because we're forced to. But we're also capable of protection and preservation. You're about to see that side of humanity. As they left the Council chamber, Thorn spoke quietly to Stone. We just agreed to fight a war the Council has been losing for 300 years. Are we sure about this? Stone smiled grimly. The Council fights the Krill like every other war they've fought, with honor and rules and predictable tactics. We're going to teach them that sometimes the best way to win is to change the rules entirely. The human command vessel Nightfall hung in the darkness beyond the fringe sectors. It was larger than the stealth ships that had disabled Council vessels, built for coordination rather than infiltration. Inside the main operations room, Ambassador David Stone studied holographic displays showing the Krill swarm's movements while Captain Lisa Thorne coordinated with human fleet. Commanders across secure channels. Dr. Ben River stood before a massive projection of a krill-breeding world, his face illuminated by the sickly green glow of the hive structures. The data the Council had provided was extensive but ultimately useless for human purposes. It detailed 300 years of losing battles, failed strategies, and defensive retreats. They've been fighting the Krill the same way they fight everyone else, Rivers said, highlighting sections of the Council battle reports. Fleet engagements, planetary bombardments, blockade tactics, everything designed to destroy the Krill through attrition. Thorne pulled up casualty figures. The Council loses an average of 2 ships for every 1 Krill vessel destroyed, and the Krill replace their losses within weeks. The Council takes months or years to rebuild. Stone circled the holographic display, his mind processing the strategic situation. The Council treats the Krill like an enemy to defeat. They're not. They're a problem to solve? A communication signal interrupted them. The Arbiter's crystalline form materialized as a hologram, its multiple arms folded in what might have been a gesture of patience or anxiety. Behind it, several Council species watched with obvious interest. The Council observes that you have not yet engaged the Krill forces, the Arbiter noted. 3 more colonies have ceased communication. Time is critical. Stone didn't look away from his displays. We're not ready yet. Rushing into battle unprepared is how you lose. The Council has provided comprehensive intelligence on Krill tactics and capabilities. A reptilian voice cut in from the background. What more preparation do you require? Your intelligence tells us how to fight them, Rivers replied. We're trying to understand why we're fighting them. There's a difference. The Arbiter's form shifted in confusion. The Krill are aggressors. They consume worlds. The reason is self-evident. Thorne enlarged a section of the display showing Krill migrati. On patterns over the past century, nothing about their behavior suggests random aggression. Look at this. They're moving in a specific direction through your space, not expanding in all directions like a typical invasive species. They're going somewhere. They go where resources exist, the water being's voice bubbled through the transmission. This is known. But they're not taking the most resource-rich routes, Rivers countered, highlighting several systems the Krill had bypassed entirely. 3 gas giants perfect for their breeding needs. Multiple asteroid fields rich in the minerals their ships need. They ignored all of them to push through this corridor. Why? Silence from the Council observers? Stone allowed himself a small smile. This was the fundamental difference between human and Council thinking. The Council saw enemies. Humans saw puzzles. We'll engage the Krill within 48 hours, Stone said. But not the way you expect. Keep your fleets back. Let us work. The transmission ended before the Council could protest. Thorne pulled up tactical displays showing human ship positions. 20 vessels were already in the fringe sectors, invisible to both Council and Krill sensors. Another 30 were en route. The strike teams are in position, Thorne reported. But they're waiting for targets. We still don't know which Krill installations to hit. Rivers had been cross-referencing 300 years of Council data, looking for patterns. I think I found something. Every major Krill offensive has originated from one of 7 breeding worlds. But look at the resource allocation. 6 of those worlds receive steady supply shipments. The 7th receives triple the resources but produces fewer ships. Stone leaned closer to the display. A command center. The krill are a hive mind. They need central coordination. More than that, Rivers adjusted the display to show biological data. The Council's reports mention that when they've successfully destroyed krill ships, the entire local swarm becomes disorganized for days before recovering. They're not a single hive mind. They're multiple subminds coordinated by command nodes. Thorne saw where this was going. So, if we take out the command nodes, the entire swarm falls apart. Temporarily, Rivers cautioned. They'll eventually establish new nodes. But it gives us time to address the real problem, which is? Stone asked. Rivers pulled up astronomical data, showing the trajectory of a dying star system 3 sectors beyond krill space. Their original homeworld was consumed by a supernova 2,000 years ago. They've been looking for a new permanent home ever since. That's why they pushed through Council space. They're not expanding. They're migrating. The implications settled over the room like heavy gravity. The Council had been fighting a refugee crisis with military force for 3 centuries and wondering why it never ended. The Council will never accept that explanation, Thorne said. The krill have killed too many. Destroyed too much. Stone nodded slowly. But they might accept a solution that doesn't require accepting the explanation. We give the krill what they need, and we remove them from Council space. Everyone wins. That requires us to survive long enough to negotiate, Rivers pointed out. The krill aren't going to stop their offensive just because we figured out their motivation. Thorne activated the fleet-wide communication system. All human vessels, this is command. Target packages are being transmitted now. Primary objectives are krill command nodes on breeding worlds. Secondary objectives are supply chain disruption. Rules of engagement: disable and isolate, not destroy. We're not here to extinct a species. We're here to stop a war. Across the fringe sectors, human ships that had been waiting in the darkness began to move. They approached the krill breeding worlds using the same tactics that had worked against Council vessels. Silent running. Minimal energy signatures. Patient stalking through debris, fields and asteroid clusters. The first breeding world appeared on the Nightfall's main display. It was a massive gas giant with floating hive structures that processed the atmosphere into nutrients. Thousands of krill vessels orbited it like insects around a hive. To attack conventionally would be suicide, but the human ships didn't attack conventionally. 3 vessels, each carrying specialized scientific equipment, drifted into high orbit disguised as debris. They began scanning the hive structures, looking for the biological signatures that would indicate a command node. Dr. Rivers monitored the data in real time. There, that structure has neural activity patterns 3 magnitudes higher than the others. That's our target. Captain Thorne directed the strike team. Infiltration Team Alpha, you're cleared to approach. Remember, we need samples and communication access. Don't destroy anything we can learn from. The human infiltrators moved with practiced precision. They deployed what looked like maintenance drones, the same technology they had used against Council ships. But these drones carried something new. A synthetic compound Rivers had developed based on the biological data the Council provided. It's not a weapon, Rivers had explained during the briefing. It's a communication medium. The krill think in chemical and bioelectric signals. This compound lets us interface with their command structure. We're not attacking their mind. We're asking to talk to it. The drones attached to the command node's outer membrane and began releasing the compound. For 3 hours, nothing happened. The krill ships continued their normal patterns. The breeding world processed atmosphere as usual. Human strike teams waited in position, ready to extract if the plan failed. Then every krill vessel within range of the breeding world simultaneously stopped moving. They hung in space, motionless, as if listening to something only they could hear. On the Nightfall, Rivers received the first response. It wasn't words or images. It was pure concept transmitted through the compound interface, confusion, curiosity, and underneath it all, exhaustion. They're listening, Rivers said quietly. The command node is aware of us and wants to know what we are. Stone leaned over the communications console. Can you send concepts back? I can try. What do you want to tell them? Stone thought carefully. This moment would determine everything. Not just humanity's place in the Council, but the fate of billions of lives across the fringe sectors. Tell them we understand. Tell them we know they're refugees, not conquerors. And tell them we might have a solution. But first, they need to stop the offensive. No more attacks. No more expansion. Just stop and listen. Rivers began the complex process of translating human concepts into the biochemical language of the krill. It took hours of careful adjustment. Sending and receiving, building a vocabulary of mutual understanding. And slowly. Across 7 breeding worlds, the krill swarm began to go quiet. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council blazed with emergency lighting. Every species was present, their forms casting strange shadows across the crystalline walls. At the center, Ambassador David Stone stood without a containment field this time, flanked by Captain Lisa Thorne and Dr. Ben Rivers. The change in their status was subtle but significant. They were no longer prisoners. They were representatives. The Arbiter descended rapidly, its crystalline form reconfigured into sharp, aggressive angles. The krill offensive has ceased. All attacks stopped simultaneously 6 hours ago. Explain what you have done. Stone kept his voice level despite the chamber's chaotic energy. We did what you asked. We found a way to stop them. The reptilian species that had been hostile in previous sessions now leaned forward with intense interest. Our sensors show the krill swarm remains active. Their ships have not withdrawn. They have not been destroyed. They simply stopped moving. This makes no sense. It makes perfect sense, Rivers replied, pulling up holographic data that displayed biochemical readings from the krill command nodes. We established communication with them. The chamber exploded with noise. Dozens of species shouting in their various languages, translators struggling to keep up with the volume. The water being surged against its containment suit in agitation. The insectoid species clicked so rapidly their translator gave up and displayed error messages. The Arbiter raised all 6 arms and silence crashed down. The krill cannot communicate. They are a hive mind driven by instinct. 300 years of study confirmed this. 300 years of study based on a false assumption, Stone corrected. You assumed they couldn't communicate because they didn't respond to your attempts at contact. But you were using the wrong language. The krill don't think in words or images. They think in chemical signals and bioelectric pulses. We developed a compound that lets us interface with those signals. Thorne activated a recording of the first contact. On the holographic display, human drones attached to the krill command node membrane. The synthetic compound flowed into the alien structure. Then came the response, translated into concepts humans could understand. Not aggression or hunger, weariness, desperation, loss. They've been trying to tell you for centuries, Rivers said quietly. Their homeworld was destroyed. They're not invading. They're fleeing, looking for a place to survive. But every time they tried to settle, the Council attacked them. So they kept moving, kept fighting, because the alternative was extinction. The Granite Collective's representative rose from the highest tier, its stone form grinding with ancient authority. If this is true, why did they not simply stop and explain? Why continue the cycle of violence? Because you never gave them a chance, Stone replied. Your first response to the krill was military force. Every encounter after that reinforced the same pattern. They learned that the Council only understood violence, so violence became their language too. The chamber fell into uncomfortable silence. The implications were staggering. 300 years of warfare. Billions of lives lost. Entire worlds devastated. All because of a failure to communicate. The Arbiter's form shifted through several configurations, processing this information. What you describe suggests a solution. Can the krill be relocated to uninhabited space? We're already negotiating that, Thorne confirmed. We've identified 7 systems beyond Council space that meet the krill's environmental needs. Gas giants for breeding. Asteroid fields for resources. No existing colonies or territorial claims. We've proposed these locations to the Krill command nodes. And they accepted? The water being asked, its bioluminescence pulsing with skepticism, Rivers shook his head. They're considering it. The Krill aren't a single entity that makes instant decisions. They're multiple connected minds that need to reach consensus. But initial responses are positive. They want to stop fighting. They're tired. A new species spoke for the first time, a being made of organized gas clouds held together by electromagnetic fields. This seems too simple. Why would the Krill trust you when they never trusted the Council? Because we approached them differently, Stone explained. We didn't come with demands or threats. We came with curiosity. We tried to understand them before judging them. And when we made our offer, we did something the Council never did. We asked them what they needed instead of telling them what they couldn't have. The Arbiter rotated to face the assembled species. If the human proposal succeeds, it will end the longest war in Council history. But it requires us to provide resources for Krill relocation, to help establish them in new territory. Many species will see this as rewarding aggression. Many species need to understand the difference between punishment and solution, Stone countered. You can spend the next 300 years fighting the Krill and lose billions more lives. Or you can spend a fraction of those resources helping them relocate and end the conflict permanently. Which choice serves the Council better? The reptilian delegate hissed thoughtfully. The human makes a practical argument. Pride is expensive. Peace is profitable. There's another consideration, Rivers added, displaying star charts that showed the Krill's projected trajectory if they continued their current course. If you don't help relocate them voluntarily, they'll eventually push through Council space to reach habitable systems on the far side. The fighting will continue for centuries. But if you help establish them now in neutral space, they become a buffer between Council territory and the unknown regions beyond. Strategic advantage and humanitarian solution in one. The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. Less anger, more calculation. The various species were considering the proposal seriously. Weighing costs and benefits, the Arbiter consulted with the eldest species in the highest tier. Their deliberation took 20 minutes while the humans waited patiently. Finally, the Arbiter descended to its central position. The Council will support the relocation effort on two conditions. First, humanity must maintain communication with the Krill and guarantee their compliance with territorial boundaries. Second, human forces must establish monitoring stations to ensure the Krill do not expand beyond their designated systems. Stone nodded. Acceptable. We'll assign permanent liaison teams to work with the Krill. Consider it humanity's contribution to galactic stability. There remains the matter of humanity's status within the Council, the Arbiter continued. You have demonstrated capability we did not anticipate. You have solved a problem we could not. But you have also shown a willingness to use force without hesitation. The question stands. Are you civilized enough to join us? Thorne stepped forward, and her voice carried the weight of experience. You're asking the wrong question. Civilization isn't about avoiding violence. It's about knowing when violence is necessary and when it isn't. We fought you because we thought we had to. We helped you with the Krill because we could. That's not barbarism. That's judgment. The Granite Collective's representative spoke with the authority of the Council's eldest member. The humans are correct. We judge them by our standards without understanding their context. They are predators, yes. But predators serve a purpose in any ecosystem. They eliminate weak systems and force adaptation. Perhaps the Council has grown complacent in our dominance. Perhaps we needed predators among us to remember how to evolve. The vote was called. 73 species, each with their own interests and fears. The holographic display showed the results in real time. Green lights for acceptance. Red for rejection, yellow for abstention. The colors flickered and changed as species registered their decisions. 51 green, 15 red, 7 yellow, The Arbiter's form shifted into something that might have been a smile or a grimace. By council majority, humanity is granted full membership status. Earth and its territories are recognized as sovereign. You will have representation in this chamber and voice in galactic affairs. Welcome to the Galactic Council. Stone allowed himself a small smile. We accept with gratitude, and we look forward to proving that predators and prey can coexist when they understand each other. As the formal proceedings concluded, species began approaching the humans individually, some with congratulations, others with warnings, a few with business proposals. The galaxy was opening up to humanity, with all the opportunities and dangers that implied, the water being approached last, its bioluminescence pulsing in patterns that suggested respect. I opposed your membership vigorously. I believed you were too dangerous. And now? Stone asked. I still believe you're dangerous. But I understand now that danger is not the same as evil. The galaxy has many threats. Perhaps it needs dangerous allies to face them. 6 weeks later, the first Krill colony ships entered their new territory under human escort. The exodus was peaceful, organized, and monitored by both human and council observers. The fringe sectors, devastated by 3 centuries of war, began the slow process of recovery and rebuilding on the nightfall. Captain Thorne stood at the observation window watching a krill breeding structure being towed to its new home. Ambassador Stone joined her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. A human custom he'd introduced to several curious alien species. Think it'll last? Thorne asked. The peace? Stone sipped his coffee. Nothing lasts forever. But we've bought time. And we've shown the galaxy that humans aren't just destroyers. We're problem solvers. We're also still predators, Thorne reminded him. True, but now we're predators with purpose. The Council has threats they can't handle alone. Pirates in the outer systems. Rogue AI in the core worlds. Resource disputes that could become wars. They need species who think differently, who fight differently, who aren't bound by 3,000 years of tradition. A communication alert interrupted them. Another crisis. Another call for human intervention. Stone smiled and finished his coffee. The galaxy was large, dangerous, and full of problems that needed solving, and humanity. The suited predators from Earth had finally found their place among the stars. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.